Hello, welcome back to Scholars Forum. I'm by name Paschal from the Department of Medical Surgical Nursing at Federal University Düsseldorf. In this tutorial video, we'll dive into what we have for the day, Basic Parasitology, which is a FUDMA CHS106, and under which we'll be discussing on parasitology, what is parasitology, the feature of parasite, the nature of parasite, and how parasite can be classified. Then we'll move on to host, the types of host, and the mode of transmission. Alright, let's dive into what we have for the day. Parasitology is a science that deals with the study of parasites. It's a science that deals with the study of parasites. Medical parasitology is a science that deals with the study of parasite that causes disease. It deals with disease process, that is parasite responsible for causing disease in human. And also parasites, these are organisms that live in or on a host. That is, they depend on the host for survival. That is for the host to get food, shelter, and etc. That is, they depend on the host for them to survive. Then we have the nature of parasite. A parasite could be unicellular, and unicellular, these are organisms that are made up of one cell. Yeah, they are made up of one cell. They are made up of one cell only, and they are very small. They are very small. They are very small, and can only be seen with the aid of a microscope. Can only be seen with the aid of a microscope. Yes, and also another nature of parasite that it could be worm. And worm, these are multicellular long organisms that live inside the body of the host. An example of worm include the roundworm, tapeworm, etc. And also parasites, they could be arthropod. And arthropod, these are animals with jointed legs. They are animals with jointed legs. They are animals with jointed legs. The animal with jointed leg and hard outer body. That is, they have exoskeleton. Example include the mosquito, the tick, the lice, etc. Now we move into the feature of parasite, and we have a lot of parasites have a lot of features. From our slide, it says that they are smaller than the host. Yes, of course, parasites, they are usually tiny compared to the host. Also, they outnumber the host. Many parasites can live in one host at the same time. Yeah, you can find thousands of parasites in a single host. They have greater reproductive ability. They produce many offspring quickly. And we have also other feature of parasite that is not captured in your handout. Let me just list them for you. They depend on the host. Yes, which is also another feature of parasite. They depend on the host for survival, for food, and for them to be able to reproduce, which is also another feature of parasite. And also another important feature is that they can cause harm to host. Yes, they have the ability to cause harm to host, which can lead to disease. They can cause harm to host, which can lead to disease or weakness. And also another feature of parasites is that they have special adaptation. That is, they have special adaptive feature which enable them to survive and live successfully in their host. For instance, let's take tapeworm as a case study. Yeah, tapeworm has special adaptive feature like the hook and the sucker, which enable it to live successfully in its environment. For instance, the hook in tapeworm enable it to attach itself to the wall of the intestine of the host to prevent it from falling off. Yes, which is an adaptive feature. And also the sucker, which it's used for feeding in the host. I will together to this point. And also another feature of parasites is that they can live in or outside of the host. That is, they can be either an endoparasite or an ectoparasite. And also another feature of parasites is that they often have a complex life cycle. Yes, they often have a complex life cycle which may involve more than one host. For instance, let's take malaria parasite. Malaria parasite, which is plasmodium, right? It has two hosts. Yes, it has two hosts. The woman which is where it causes the disease, and also the mosquito where it develop and spread. And also another feature of parasite is that they have good survival ability. Yes, that is, they have the tendency to resist harsh condition inside the host. For example, let's take the same tapeworm for instance. You know that the tapeworm, it has a thick outer covering which is called the cortical, right? And that thick outside covering protects it from being damaged by the digestive enzyme of its host while it is inside the intestine, which is one adaptive feature of tapeworm for it to survive, and to survive and live successfully in its host. These are the features of parasite. Now let's move into the classification of parasite. Let me wipe my board. Let's be fast. Let me wipe my board. Let's be fast. Okay, I said that we have parasite can be classified according to different form. We have classification of parasite based on habitat, that is where they live. That is where we have the ectoparasite and endoparasite. Ectoparasite, these are parasites that live on the body surface. They live on the body surface of the host. An example include the tick, the flea, the mites, the bedbug. Then we have endoparasite. These, from the word endo, these are parasites that live inside. They live inside. They live inside. They live inside the body of their host. Example include the Ascaris lumbricoid, the Plasmodium species, which is responsible for causing malaria. We have the Phania species, the Tania species. We have the Schistosoma species, which is responsible for causing schistosomiasis. We have the Leishmanial species. These are examples of endoparasite. Then we have classification of parasite based on their dependency, that is according to dependency on the host. That is where we have the permanent parasite and the temporal parasite. The permanent parasite and the temporal parasite. The permanent parasite, it's also called the obligate parasite. These are parasites that fully depend on their host. They fully depend on their host for survival. That is, they cannot live outside their host. An example of such parasite include the Plasmodium species, which is responsible for causing malaria. You have the Trichomina vaginalis. The Trichomina vaginalis, these are STI parasites. That is, sexually, they have been transmitted through sexual intercourse. Yes, they have been transmitted through sexual intercourse, and they affect the vagina. And also we also have the Phania species, which is also another example of permanent parasite. That is, parasite that fully depend on its host for survival. It cannot live outside the host. We also have the Schistosoma. It's also another example of permanent parasite. Alright, now let's move to the temporal parasite. The temporal parasite, which is also called the facultative parasite. These are parasites that can live freely. Yeah, they can live freely. That is, they can survive outside the host. That is, they are not fully dependent on the host. An example include the like of the Strongyloids, Stachyralis. We have the Candida species. Let me write it here. Candida species. The Candida species. The Strongyloid, Stachyralis, and also we have the Aspergillus species. They are example of temporal parasite that they can survive on their own. Now we have classification of parasite according to pathogenicity, that is the ability of causing disease. That's where we have the pathogenic parasite, we have the non-pathogenic parasite, and the opportunistic parasite. Alright, the pathogenic parasite, these are parasites that causes disease, and the example of such parasite include the Entamoeba histolytica. And the Entamoeba histolytica is responsible for causing amoeboisis, right, which is amoebic dysentery. And also another example of pathogenic parasite is the Plasmodium species, which is responsible for causing malaria. And also another example is the trypanosomia species, which is responsible for causing trypanosomiasis, which is called the African sleeping sickness. And also we have the schistosomia species, which causes schistosomiasis. And now the second type of parasite according to pathogenicity, we have the non-pathogenic parasite. These are parasites that do not cause harm. Yes, these parasites, they do not cause harm. They do not cause harm. Example is the like of the entamoeba coli. Yes, entamoeba coli. We have the endolimax nana. Let me wipe the board. Endolina lana. We have the trichomonas hominis. Let me wipe the board. I say we have the entamoeba coli. We have the endolimax nana. We have the trichomonas hominis. Alright, the third types of parasite according to pathogenicity is the opportunistic parasite. These are parasites from the name opportune, right? Yeah, they have the ability of causing infection or disease when the when conditions are favorable. Yes, when conditions are favorable. They are often mild in healthy people and severe in weak immune people, that is people with weak immunity. For example, let's take the pneumocystis. Yeah, pneumocystis pneumocystis carani, which is also known as the pneumocyte gervasine. This is also known as the neurocyte gervasine, which causes pneumocystis pneumonia. Pneumocystis pneumonia is a lung infection caused by the parasite, and it primarily affects immunocompromised individuals, that is such as people with HIV/AIDS, or cancer patients. That is from the name opportunistic parasite. These are parasites that strike when your body immune system is down. That is when the body immune system is down. That's where they strike. For instance, now for patients with HIV and AIDS, the patient did not actually die as a result of the HIV and AIDS, but as a result of opportunistic parasite which cause as a result of opportunistic parasite which cause different infection in the patient, because the that patient with HIV has a compromised immune system. That is, the immune system have been destroyed. That is, the soldiers of the body are being destroyed. The body is not capable of fighting infection, so different infection comes into the body. That's why you see the patient will die. Okay, and also other example of opportunistic parasite, we have the toxoplasmosis. Yeah, toxoplasmosis. The toxoplasmosis, which is caused by the Toxoplasma gondii, it's caused by the Toxoplasma gondii. It can be mild in healthy people, that is people with healthy immune system, but it can be life threatening, especially in pregnant women and immunocompromised individual. All right, now let's move to host. Host, these are organisms which harbor parasites. Yes, they are organisms that harbor parasite, and we have different types of hosts. We have the definite host, we have the intermediate host, we have the reservoir host, we have the carrier host, and also we have the accidental host. The definite hosts, these are hosts that harbor the adult or sexual mature stage of the parasite. They harbor the adult or the sexual mature stage, of the parasite. And since they harbor the sexual mature stage of the parasite, therefore fertilization also takes place. Fertilization also takes place in the definite host. Fertilization also takes place in the definite host. An example of a definite host is man, which act as definite host for Taenia segnata. Taenia segnata is a parasitic tapeworm. Yes, it's a parasitic tapeworm that 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 lives inside the intestine of man, and the man serving as a definite host for it. And the parasitic tapeworm, it often cause abdominal pain in man. It leads to weight loss, and also most of its signs they are asymptomatic. Yes, it also, yeah, they are mostly asymptomatic. Yes, mostly it's present in the intestine of man, but it is mostly asymptomatic. Yeah, it's mostly asymptomatic, and also it is also responsible for causing abdominal pain in man and also weight loss. Okay, the second type of host is the intermediate host. The intermediate host, these are hosts that harbor the larva. This one, it harbor the larva or the immature stage of the parasite. It harbor the larva or immature stage of the parasite, and since it harbor the immature stage of the parasite, so therefore fertilization did not occur. Fertilization did not occur in an intermediate host. Fertilization do not occur in an intermediate host. The third type of host is called the reservoir host. The reservoir host, these are wild animal, yeah, wild or domestic animal that harbored the parasite. That is, they act as source of infection for man. They act as source of infection for man. And an example of a reservoir host is rodents. Example like the sandfly, which acts as a reservoir host of leishmania. And leishmania is a parasite that is responsible for causing leishmaniasis. And leishmaniasis is a parasitic infection that is being caused by leishmania, and it affects different parts of the body, including the skin, leading to skin ulcer, visceral, that is internal organ, which its effect, it's life threatening, that is it's fatal, yeah, it's fatal. And also it also affect the mucous membrane. It also affect the mucous membrane. The fourth type of host, according from our outline here, we have the carrier host. These are hosts that harbored and spread the parasite. That is, they harbored and spread parasite without showing any sign of disease. That is, they are mostly asymptomatic. Yeah, that is, the host, they are asymptomatic. They show no clinical sign and symptom that they are harboring parasite, but they have the tendency of spreading this parasite to other hosts. Then the fourth type of host, which is the accidental host, from the name accidental host, not the normal host, right? Not the normal host species. As a result of not being the normal host species, the parasite inside have a tendency of completing or not completing its life cycle. That is, in essence, from our outline, we have five type of hosts, which are the carrier host, the definite host, the intermediate host, the reservoir host, and the accidental host. The definite host, we said that it harbored the adult or the sexual stage of the parasite, and also fertilization occurred there. In the intermediate host, we said that it harbored the larval stage of the parasite and no fertilization occurred. Then we said that in the reservoir host, they are animals that keep parasite in nature. Then we talk about the carrier host. The carrier host, these are healthy hosts that spread parasite. Then we talk about the accidental host. The accidental host, that is not the usual host, right? And the parasite have a tendency to develop or not to develop. Then we move to vector. A vector is a living organism that carries a parasite from an infected host to a healthy host. That is, a vector, it acts as a transporter. That is a transport system. Yes, a transport system which transmits or which carry carries a parasite from an infected host to a healthy host. And we have two type of vector. Sorry, is vector. Yeah, vector is a living organism that carry a parasite from an infected host to a healthy host. We have two type of vector, which are the biological vector and the mechanical vector. In biological vector, I said the biological vector and mechanical vector. In biological vector, the parasite develop or multiply inside the vector. That is, the vector is very essential for the parasite life cycle. An example of that include the female Anopheles mosquito, which act as a biological vector for malaria, the Glossinia, which acts as biological vector for trypanosoma, which is responsible for causing trypanosomiasis, then the Phlegbotomos, which act as a biological vector for leishmania, which is responsible for causing leishmaniasis. We are together to this point, right? The mechanical vector, these are vector that just carried the parasite. They just carry the parasite. There is no developmental stage of the parasite occurs there. And an important example, or a very common example, is housefly, which act as a mechanical vector for intestinal parasites like the likes of the Giardia, the Amweba. Alright, then we have two stages of parasite, which are the diagnostic stage and the infective stage. They are the stages of parasite. The diagnostic stage, this is the stage when we can detect the parasite in the stool, blood, or urine during laboratory examination. Then the infective stage of the parasite. This is a stage of the parasite that is from the word infecting. This is the stage that the parasite have the tendency to enter a host and continue to develop there. Yeah, and continue to develop there. Then the next thing we have on our slide here is infection. And infection occur when a parasite enters the body, and as a result of the invasion or the intrusion of the parasite inside the body defense mechanism respond. That is, the body immune system respond, leading to a reaction or damage. That is, in essence, infection refers to the invasion of or parasitic parasitic organism or microbial organism, be it parasite, fungi, virus, and other microbial organism. As a result of that invasion, the body system, that is the body defense mechanism, reacts. That is, in order to protect the body cell, in order to protect the body. That is a defense mechanism leading to reaction or damage, tissue damage. That is what we call infection. um Vector itself does not cause disease. It only transmits the parasite, because we just spoke about vector, right, as a transport system, right? A transport Vector as a transport system. Yes, vector as a transport system. I want you guys to understand that vector itself does not cause the disease. It only transmits the parasite. That is, what actually happens is that the parasite enters the body, but the parasite, when it enters the body, it causes tissue reaction. This tissue reaction, this is what we call inflammatory process. Yeah, inflammatory process, which is the body defense mechanism. It's the body defense mechanism against invasion, or against infectious or actual or potential tissue injury. Are we together? Because this inflammatory response is the body defense mechanism, informing the body that there is potential danger, or there is danger in the body. Are we together? As the body tries to defend itself, that is through the vascular response and the cellular response, a trigger reaction in the body. Yes, it trigger reaction in the body, that is in the tissue. And also the release of toxin from this parasite can lead to disease process. Altogether. So therefore, infection refers to the invasion. It refers to the invasion. It refers to the invasion or intrusion by pathogenic microorganism. By pathogenic microorganism, be it a virus, fungi, parasitic protozoa, parasites, and other microorganism and other microbial organism that leads to or that trigger reaction in the host tissue. Yes, that trigger reaction in the host tissue in the presence of the toxin. Yes, it trigger a reaction in the host tissue in the presence of this toxin, leading to inflammatory response in the host and the disease process. Are we together? That is, as the pathogenic organism enter the host, it causes inflammatory response. Are we together? It causes inflammatory response, which later leads to disease process in the host, which can lead to disease process if the body inflammatory response is not sufficient, that it is not strong enough to counter this intruder. It progresses down to disease, which is an abnormal condition affecting the body. We are together, right? Abnormal pathological condition affecting the body. Now let's move to what we have next on our slide. We have the mode of transmission. The mode of transmission. Let's now look at the mode of transmission. That is how parasite move from one host. How parasite move from one host to another. How parasite move from one host to another. And we have two major type. We have the direct mode of transmission and the indirect mode of transmission. Let me write here. We have the direct mode of transmission and the indirect mode of transmission. In the direct mode of transmission, the parasite, let me write over here, the parasite completes its life cycle in one host. In the direct mode of transmission, the parasite completes its life cycle. It completes its life cycle in one host, in a single host, and sometimes it may require also the use of mechanical vector. That is, for the parasite to be able to move from one host to another, it might sometimes require a mechanical vector. We all know what is mechanical vector, right? All right. Under the direct transmission, we have the horizontal transmission. This is the transmission from one person to another. Yeah, it is a transmission from one person to another. So when we talk about the horizontal transmission, we are referring to the transmission between individuals. Yes, individuals. That is, from one person to another. That is in the horizontal direct mode of transmission. We said that in the direct mode of transmission, the parasite completes its life cycle in one host, right? Then we have, under the direct mode of transmission, we have the horizontal. I said that it is the transmission from one person to another. That is the transmission between individuals of the same generation. That means it simply means from one person to another person. Are we together? It does not involve parents to offspring. That is genetics. You understand? That's what I want to buttress on, that the difference between the horizontal direct mode of transmission and the vertical direct mode of transmission. This one, it does not involve parent and child. That is, it's not being passed from gametes, that is doing birth. Yes. Are we together? It's not genetic. It's being contacted from person to person. That is through direct skin penetration, blood transfusion, sexual intercourse, or through the fecal oral route, especially the intestinal parasite, which find their way into the body of the host through the anal region or the oral route. We are together to this point. All right. Now the vertical direct mode of transmission. Now the vertical transmission is different from the horizontal. It's different from the horizontal. So it's this. So this is the transmission from mother to child. That is genetics, right? That is from mother to child. So it happens across generation. That is the difference I want you to understand. It happens across generation. Example include like the transfer of the transfer the transfer the transfer or transmission or the movement of the parasite from mother to child through placenta. Yes, through placenta. Through placenta, because placenta is the site where there is exchange of material between the maternal and the fetal during pregnancy. And that's why it's also called the congenital transmission, and also through breast milk, which is called the transmammary transmission. All right. The next mode of transmission is the indirect transmission. Now, in the indirect transmission, the parasite has a complex. It has a complex life cycle. That's a complex life cycle. A complex life cycle. It need a vector. It need a vector or an extra host. It needs a vector or extra host, which is known as the intermediate host. Yes, it needs a vector or extra host known as an intermediate host in order for it to develop. In order for it to develop, yeah, it needs an intermediate host for in order for it to develop. So in exchange, in the indirect mode of transmission, the parasite um, it cannot just complete its life cycle in just one host. Yes, it cannot complete its life cycle in just one host. It need more than one host for it to complete its life cycle. That is, it's require an intermediate host. Yeah, it require an intermediate host for it to be able to complete its life cycle. Now the next thing we have on our slide is host parasite relationship. Now let's look at host parasite relationship. This refers to how parasite and host interact, and this interaction can either be helpful or harmful. Are we together? Yes. Yeah, it refers to how the parasite and the host interact. That is the relationship between the host and parasite, and this interaction can either be helpful or harmful. And so therefore, there are different types of association. Yeah, different type of association between the host and parasite, which include we have the mutualism. Mutualism In mutualism, both organisms benefit from each other. In mutualism, one mutual, both organisms they benefit from each other. For example, let's take which example like yes, like termites. Yes, termites and the gut protozoa. Termites and gut protozoa. The protozoa, this gut protozoa, it helps the termite to digest. It helps the termite to digest cellulose, and the termite in turn provide food and shelter. Yeah, it provide food and shelter for the protozoa, which is an example of mutualism relationship between host and parasite. Another we have another type of relationship. We have the symbiosis. We have the symbiosis. We have the symbiosis, which is a permanent relationship where both organism, that is, the both organism in the association, they both depend on each other. Yes, they both depend on each other for survival. And one key thing I want you guys to note when it comes to symbiosis that differentiate it from mutualism is that in symbiosis there is permanent there is permanent dependency. There is permanent dependency. Like for example, a lynch. A lynch is made up of algae. Is made up of algae and fungi. Yeah, and the fungus. They are living together permanently, and both of them cannot survive. These two, they cannot survive alone. Are we together? Yes, it's a lynch is made up of an algae, which is which provide food for the fungus, because algae they are autotroph, right? While the fungus they are heterotroph, right? Yes, these two they live permanently together, and both of them they cannot survive alone, which is an example of symbiosis. Another type of association is the commensalism. In commensalism, that is in commensalism, in commensalism, the parasite in the association, the parasite benefits. Yeah, the parasite benefits while the host neither benefits nor is harm. Yeah, but the parasite do benefit from the association, but the host is neither harmed nor helped. So the parasite benefit and the host is unaffected. An example of that association is the entamoeba. Yes, entamoeba coli. Entamoeba coli in the human intestine is an example of commensalism association, in which the entamoeba coli, it feeds on the remnants, or it feeds on the food, the nutrient inside the intestine of the host, and in during the process it does not affect the intestine. And also another example is the barnacle and wheel. Is the barnacle, yeah, on wheel. On the barnacle, it attach itself for transport on the wheel. That is, it attach itself for transport on the wheel, and the wheel is unaffected. Yeah, it's unaffected. Another association between two organisms is the parasitism. Yes, parasitism. In parasitism, the parasite benefits. The parasite, it benefits at the expense. It benefits at the expense of the host. Yes, it benefits at the expense of the host. So yeah, the parasite benefit and the host is harm. Yes, and the host is harm. Example of such association is Plasmodium, which is responsible for causing malaria in human. Plasmodium inside human, which results to malaria, is an example of parasitic association, that is parasitism. Also, another example of parasitic association is the ascaric lumbricoid. Which is inside the intestine, because ascaric lumbricoid is an intestinal worm that causes malnutrition. Yes, it causes malnutrition in its host. It's also another example of parasitism. Now let's move to what we have next on our slide. Pathogenicity and virulence. Pathogenicity is just the ability of parasites to cause disease. The ability of a parasite to cause a disease is called pathogenicity. And also virulence, it refers to how severe the disease is. Yes, it refers to how severe this disease is, and also it depends on factor like the toxin produced, that is the toxin produced by the parasite, and also the degree of invasiveness of the parasite. Yes, it will determine how the severe will how the severity of the disease will be, which depend on the toxin produced and also the degree of invasiveness of the parasite. Now let's move to what we have next on our slide. Alright, we have the general life cycle of parasite. Finally, let's look at the general life cycle of parasite. Okay, um, um, we have the direct life cycle and the indirect life cycle. Alright, in direct life cycle, the parasite complete its cycle in one host. The parasite complete its cycle in one host. Example include hookworm, Giardia that is responsible for causing giardiasis, right? Then I said that indirect it complete its classification of parasite. Alright, this slide is talking about the classification of medically important parasite. Classification of medically important parasite. Medically important parasite. Medically important parasite. Alright, let's talk about the classification of medically important parasite. These parasites, they actually affect human health. These parasites, they actually affect human health. They actually affect human health, and they belong to the kingdom. The parasite, they belongs to the kingdom Animalia. The kingdom Animalia, that is the parasite that affect human health, that is the medically important parasite, they belongs to the kingdom Animalia. Although the kingdom Animalia, although the kingdom Animalia, right, it has many phylum or phyla, it has many phyla, but the medically important parasite worm, they belongs to the phylum Protozoa, the phylum Platehelminth, and the phylum Nematohelminth. Nematohelminth. Are we together? Yes. I say although the animal kingdom it contain many phylum, but the medically important parasitic worm, they belongs to the phylum Protozoa, the phylum Platehelminth, and the phylum Nematohelminth. Are we together? The phylum, the medically important parasite, they belongs to the phylum Protozoa. That is, Protozoa, these are single cell organism. The phylum Platehelminth, that is, they are flatworms, right? Platehelminth, the phylum Platehelminth, that is, they are flatworms, and the phylum Nematohelminth, which these are roundworm, these are flatworms, these are single cell flatworm, roundworm. One important point to note here is that the protozoa, right? Yes, the protozoa are sometimes not placed in the kingdom Animalia based on the modern system of classification. Yes, it is not placed in the kingdom Animalia. I will talk more on it as we proceed deeper. It just came to my mind now. Let me just share it now. The protozoa, they are not sometimes placed under the kingdom Animalia. In the modern classification, they are classified under Protista. I'll clear that confusion as we proceed. Yes, they are classified under the kingdom Protista. Alright, they are classified under the kingdom Protista. So, in essence, the classification of parasite, that is the classification of medically important parasite, that is the parasite which affect human health, they belong to the kingdom Animalia. Yes, they belong to the kingdom Animalia. Although the kingdom Animalia, they have many phylum. Yes, it has many phylum, but the medical important parasitic worm, they belongs to the phylum Protozoa, the phylum Platehelminth, and the the phylum Nematohelminth, that is the roundworm, the flatworm, and the single cell organism. Alright, now let's pick each phylum one after the other and we'll discuss on it. Now the phylum that is the Protozoa. Let me erase my board. Alright, the Protozoa. The Protozoa. The Protozoa. The Protozoa. Alright. They are microscopic. That is the general characteristics of the Protozoa. They are microscopic. Ranging from 2 down to 100 micrometer. Micro. And also they are single cell. Yeah, they are single cell. They are single cell organism. They also have cell membrane, nucleus, and organelle like the endoplasmic reticulum. I hope you guys still remember the function of organelle in cell, right? The endoplasmic reticulum, the vacuole, the food granule. These the general characteristic of Protozoa. They are microscopic, ranging from 2 to 100 micrometer. They are single cell organism. They have cell membrane, they have nucleus and other organelle like the endoplasmic reticulum, the vacuole, the food granule. Just to refresh our brain on basic biology, we know that the function of the endoplasmic reticulum is that it synthesizes and transports protein and lipid. Yeah, it synthesizes and transports protein and lipid within the cell. The food granule is store nutrient like glycogen. The food granule, foodie, right? It's store nutrient like glycogen. That's what I normally used to remember. It's foodie. Store nutrient like glycogen or lipid in the cell for energy use. Then the vacuole, it's involved in storage. The vacuole is involved in storage of nutrient digestion, and also one important function of the vacuole, it helps in regulation of water balance in the cell. Yeah, this is one of its cardinal functions. Regulation of water balance in the cell. And also one other characteristic of the Protozoa is that they reproduce asexually. Yes, they reproduce asexually. Then now we have the classification of the Protozoa. You know that the kingdom of medical parasite is the kingdom Animalia, right? Then the phylum, we have the Protozoa, Platyhelminth, phylum Nematohelminth. Now under the classification of Protozoa, that is its subphylum will be the Sarcomastigophora, the Apicomplexia, the Celiophora, and Microphora. You know, in the classification, in taxonomy, let me refresh your brain back to basic biology. You know, in taxonomy, we have the kingdom, the phylum, the subphylum or class, the subphylum of class, the order, the family, the genus, and species, right? Yes, basic biology. Now, the subphylum or the classes of the Protozoa, we have the Sarcomastigophora, the Apicomplexia, the Celiophora, and the Microphora. And another important thing I want you guys to note here is that classification of Protozoa has changed over time. Yes, the classification of Protozoa, it has changed over time. So modern system now treats the class Apicomplexia, the Apicomplexia, and Celiophora. they now treat them as separate. These two, they now treat these two as separate phylum. Yes, as separate phyla, not under Protista, not under Protozoa. Yes, that's the important thing I want you guys to take note of. That classification of Protozoa has changed over time. Some modern systems now treat the class previously Apicomplexia and Coeliophora as a different phyla, not under Protozoa. So therefore, in the modern classification, Protozoa is no longer a formal phylum or kingdom. Please take this. Let me buttress this thing very well. In modern classification, Protozoa is no longer a formal phylum. Are we together? It's no longer a formal phylum or kingdom, because let me clean my board. It's filled up. Let me clean my board. Yes, I said that in modern classification, Protozoa is no longer a formal phylum or kingdom. Are we together? It's no longer a formal phylum or kingdom. We now use 3 domains in classification of organisms in the modern system. Please take note. Okay, it's not captured in your slide. In modern classification, we now use 3 domains, which are: number 1, we have the bacteria, the archaea, and the eukaryotic. That is the eukaryota. The bacteria, they are prokaryotic. That is, they have no nucleus, right? Because prokaryotic, they have no nucleus. And also the archaea, they are also prokaryotic. No nucleus. During our secondary days, we have been told that we have two: the prokaryotic and the eukaryotic. Yes, the reason being that the archaea, they are also prokaryotic without no nucleus. But on the norms, it is 3, which is the bacteria, the archaea, and the eukaryotic. But the bacteria and the archaea, they are the same. That is why some textbooks, they don't match the two together. Are we together? Well, actually, it is 3. The eukaryotic, they have nucleus. That is, the eukaryota, they are eukaryotic. They have nucleus. An example include the class. They include the Protista is there. Yeah, the Protista is there. The fungi is there. The plants and animal. Yes. That is in the modern classification of organisms. It's divided into 3: the bacteria, the archaea, the eukaryota. The bacteria, they are prokaryotic, and prokaryotic, they have no true nucleus. Yes, and their DNA is not enclosed in the cytoplasm. This one, they have true nucleus. The eukaryotic, they have true nucleus. Their DNA is enclosed in the cytoplasm. And we say the archaea, they are also prokaryotic. They have no nucleus. All right. So in modern terms, Apicomplexia, the Apicomplexia, which was formerly in the subphylum Protista, it now belongs to the kingdom Protista. Yes, it now belongs to the kingdom Protista. Are we together? And the Coeliophora, it now belongs to the kingdom Protista in modern classification. Are we together? The former subphylum of Protozoa, which is the Apicomplexia and the Coeliophora, they now belong to the kingdom Protista. Are we together? And also the Sarcomastigophora, The sarcomastigophora, they now split into amoeba. Are you together? Which is called the amezoa, amebozoa, and the flagellates. Yes, and the flagellates. In modern classification, the subphylum Sarcomastigophora, it split into the amoeba and the flagellates, still under the kingdom Protista. Yes, still under kingdom Protista. We are together to this point, right? My board is filled up. Let me wipe it off. And also the formal subphyla microporal, which is the microporida, right? They now are classified. This one is the only one that changed now. They are classified as fungi in modern system of classification. The microporal, which was formerly the subphylum, which was formerly in the subphylum of the Protozoa, they are now classified as fungi. Okay, they are now classified as fungi. Let me just give an overview in our slide. Let me now get back to our slide. Now let's go back to our slide. In conclusion, most of them they are still in Protista, but microsporidal is now classified as fungi. Yeah, it's now classified as fungi. Now let's go back to our slide. Classification of Protozoa. The overview. Let me give an overview from our slide. We have the Sarcomastigophora, which move by flagella or pseudopodia. Then the Sarcomastigophora, it divides into two, which is the flagellate and the amoeba. Yes, and the amoeba. The flagellate, they move with flagella, while the amoeba, they move with pseudopodia, which is force feet, right? Then we have the subphylum Apicomplexia. The Apicomplexia, which are also called the Sporozoa. This one, they are non-motile. They are intracellular parasites. And also one key feature about the Apicomplexia is that they reproduce sexually and they form spore. Then the Pseudophoral from our slide here, which they move with the aid of cilia, right? That is the ciliated, they are ciliated. And also the Microporal, they are pore forming intracellular parasite. Let me flip through the handout. The flagellates, they move by whipping their flagella. That is, they move through the use of their flagella. An example of such parasite include the Giardia. Yeah, the Giardia. Yeah, look at it. It is spelled this way. The Giardia lamblia. Yeah, the Giardia lamblia, and the Giardia lamblia and the Trichomonas vaginalis. The Giardia lamblia and the vaginalis trichomonas, which we spoke about in previously, which I said they are STI parasite. That is, they have been transmitted through sexual intercourse. The Giardia lamblia, let me explain this in summary. The Giardia lamblia, they exist in two forms. Yes, they exist. The Giardia lamblia. The Giardia lamblia, they exist in two forms. The trophozoite and the cyst. The trophozoite, which is also known as the active form of the Giardia lamblia, while the cyst is also known as the infective stage or form of the Giardia lambi. The trophozoite, typically the trophozoite means the living, it means the living moving, it means the living moving form of the parasite. Yes, the living moving form of the parasite that multiplies and causes diseases, that multiply and causes diseases in the intestine. Why the cyst, which I said is the infective stage of the Giardia lamblia, it is the hard, the dormant, the dormant form of the Giardia lamblia that survive outside the body. Yeah, it survives outside the body, and it infects a new host. Yeah, it infects a new host. I said that the Giardia lamblia, it exists in two forms: the trophozoite, which is the active form of the parasite, and the cyst, which is the infective stage. I said that the trophozoite is the living and moving form of the parasite that multiplies and causes disease in the intestine. Then why the cyst, it is the hard and dormant, and it survives outside the body of the host, and it can infect new hosts when ingested. Are we together? The Giardia limbi is found. It is found in the intestine. That is the duodenum, right? It's found in the intestine, the duodenum specifically, and it's mostly transmitted. That is the method of transmission. The method of transmission is through contaminated food. Is through contaminated food and water. Contaminated food and water. That's why precaution ought to be taken on the kind of food and water we drink. And its effects, that is the effect of the Giardia limbi, which causes giardiasis, right? It leads to diarrhea, and since there is diarrhea, definitely that patient or that organism must be malnourished. There is malnutrition, and also fatty, that is there is fatty stool, which is also known as the stystorial. Yeah, that is passing of fatty stool. Stystorial, which is the passing of fatty stool. It's another effect of giardiasis, which is caused by Giardia lamblia. Then Giardia, lastly, when it comes to this outline over here in the Giardia lamblia can be diagnosed. Yeah, it can be diagnosed. That is, the means of identifying the infection is by using stool examination. Yes, stool examination in the laboratory. Yes, it's one method of identifying the infection, that is in which diagnosis is being carried out to confirm if one is being infected. Alright, the second example of flagellate is we have the Trichomonas vaginalis. They exist only as trophozoites. Yes, they exist only as trophozoites. My board is filled up. Let me erase my board, please. Alright, the Trichomonas vaginalis, that is the Trichomonas, the species. Alright, they exist only as trophozoites. By now I know we all know what a trophozoite, that is the moving form of the parasite that multiply and causes disease in the vagina, right? In the vagina, urethral or proteus, which is found in male. This the trichomonas species, the trichomonas SPP, they are STI parasite. I've spoken about this previously. They are STI parasite, that is, they are being contacted through sexual intercourse. Altogether, the trichomonas vaginally, it affects the vagina, right? But the species in general, they exist in two forms. That is, as they exist only as trophozoites, the living, moving form of the parasite that multiply and causes disease in the vagina, the urethra, and the prostate. Yeah, in the urethra and this prostate in male, right? The prostate gland, the urethra, which it causes urethritis. In the vagina, it causes vaginitis. Okay. All right. The trichomal species, they are found both in male and female. Yeah, they are found both in male and female. In male, they are found in the prostate gland, and the urethra, while in female, it is found in the vagina. It is found in the vagina. It is found in vagina, and its effect, it causes vaginitis in female. That is itching discharge, right? Itching. There will be itching in the vaginal region alongside with discharge. And also in male, it causes urethritis in male. Then trichomonas species can be diagnosed, that is the means of identifying the infection caused by trichomonal species is by vaginal swab or urine test. Vaginal swab for the female or urine test. Then the second division of the Sarcomastigophora is the amoebiasis, right? Yeah, amoebiasis from our slide is the amoebiasis. Let's move to the next page. Is the amoebiasis. The amoebiasis, they move with the aid of the pseudopodia. That is, they have force foot. They move with the aid of pseudopodia. That is, they have force fields. And also examples of amoebiasis, they include the entamoeba histolytica from our slide here. We have the entamoeba coli, we have the free living amoeba, and we have the Naegleria fowleri and the Anchatamoeba castellani. Now let's pick the entamoeba histolytica. The entamoeba histolytica, they exist as both trophozoites. Right, together, the entamoeba histolytica, they exist as trophozoites. We all know what trophozoites are, right? The active living form of the parasite. You have the parasite, the active living form of the parasite that multiplies and causes disease in the colon, which is the intestine, right? In the colon of the host. I say they exist as trophozoites and cysts. I said that trophozoite is the living, moving form of the parasite that multiply and causes disease in the colon of the host. Why the cyst, which is the infective, right? Yeah, infective stage of the parasite. This is the active. Why the cyst is the infective stage, which is the hard, dormant form that survive outside the body and can infect a new host when ingested. Okay. The entamoeba histolytica, they are found in the colon that is the leaves the leaves in the column, and it causes amoebic dysentery. It causes amoebic dysentery. It causes amoebic dysentery, liver abscess, that is accumulation of fluid in the liver. It causes amoebic dysentery, liver abscess, that is which is accumulation of fluid in the liver, and the and also entamoeba coli can be diagnosed. That is the means of identifying the infection. The means of identifying individual with the infection is by stool examination. There's stool examination of the stool examination, and entamoeba coli. Yes, based on our classification of parasite based on pathogenicity, we spoke about the pathogenic parasite, non-pathogenic, and opportunistic. The entamoeba coli, they are non-pathogenic parasite. That is, they do not cause infection, and they are larger than E histolytical. Yes, they are mostly larger than E histolytical. Then the other example of amoebiasis, which is the free living amoeba, the free living amoeba. Let's discuss on the free living amoeba, which is also another example of amoebiasis. The free living amoeba, they exist, or they are found in fresh water. Yeah, the free living amoeba, they are made up of the they are made up of the Naegleria fowleri, and Acanthamoeba. Acanthamoeba. Yes, that is the free living amoeba that are made up of the Naegleria fowleri and the Acanthamoeba. And this one, they are mostly found in fresh warm, that is, they are found in fresh water. That is warm fresh water. They are found in warm fresh water, and the method of transmission is through swimming. Yeah, that is, it passes through the nose during swimming, and its effect, that is the free amoeba, the free living amoeba, it's fatal, because it can lead to brain infection, that is meningoencephalitis, which is the inflammation of both the brain and the meninges, right? The side effect, or the effect of the free living amoeba, it's fatal, that is, it's severe and life threatening. Yes, it's severe and life threatening. It can lead to brain infection. With example of the brain infection, meningoencephalitis, the inflammation of both the meninges and brain. When you guys come to 300 level, yes, second semester, I think first or second semester, you guys would do, yeah, first semester, sorry, 300 level, where you guys will do head and neck. You understand what meningitis is, and also what the meningine are. Alright, now we'll move to the third subphylum under the Protozoa, which is the Sporozoa. Sorry, my board is filled up. Let me wipe it off. The Sporozoa. Next slide. Yeah, the Sporozoa. The subphylum Sporozoa under the phylum Protozoa. The Sporozoa. Which is also called the apicomplexia, right? Yeah, the apicomplexia. They have a complete life cycle. Yes, they have a complete life cycle. and they are spore forming parasites. They are spore forming protozoa. They are spore forming protozoa from the word sporozoa, and they have organelle that can penetrate the host cell. Yes, they have organelle that can penetrate the host cell, and thus they become intracellular parasite. That is, they live inside the body of the host. That is, they are endoparasites. Yeah, they are endoparasites because they have organelle that is capable of penetrating the cell of the host, and so therefore they live inside the host. An example of the sporozoa, that is, example of the sporozoa include the Plasmodium species. Yeah, example include the Plasmodium species, the Plasmodium species, which is a protozoa, that is responsible for causing malaria. It is responsible for causing malaria, and we have different types of the Plasmodium species. We have the Plasmodium falciparum, yes, which is the most dangerous, which is the most dangerous, which is the most dangerous Plasmodium that it's that 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 causes life-threatening malaria. Yeah, it causes life-threatening condition. That is, the malaria will be complicated. Yeah, it normally causes complicated malaria. Yes, but we have the non-complicated and complicated malaria. And the P. falciparum, it's mostly responsible. Then we have other species of the Plasmodium. We have the Plasmodium vivax. We have the Plasmodium vivax. We have the Plasmodium ovale. We have the Plasmodium malariae. Yes, we have the vivax, ovale, falciparum, and the malariae. And these are the species of Plasmodium. And I said that the Plasmodium, they are responsible for causing malaria, right? They are responsible for causing malaria, and the method of transmission of this protozoa or the parasite is through female Anopheles mosquito, yes, which is the intermediate host. If you remember, previously we spoke about um, type of uh, parasite. We have the direct and indirect, right? We said that one required a single host to complete the life cycle, while another, which is the indirect, require more than one host to complete the life cycle. Plasmodium is one of the indirect parasite that require two hosts to complete its life cycle. That's why the method of transmission of parasite is through Anopheles mosquito, which at the same time is its intermediate host, and also man, which is the definite host, right, where it causes the infection. Um, the the Plasmodium, it affects the liver, the red blood cell. Yes, it affects the liver and the red blood cell, and it is characterized with symptoms like fever, yeah, fever, headache, nausea, vomiting, and also it might be characterized with weight loss, yeah, weight loss, and etc. And the severity of the malaria, it's depended on the species of the Plasmodium. That is, the species of the Plasmodium, be it the vivax, be it the falciparum, be it the ovale or malariae, will determine the severity of the malaria. Are we together? Yes. All right. Also, 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 the plasmodium can be diagnosed. That is, malaria is primarily diagnosed by the blood smear. It's been diagnosed by the blood smear, and primarily it's been diagnosed by the blood smear. Then we also have other method for the diagnosis of malaria, the likes of the PCR, which is called the polymerase chain reaction. We have the malaria rapid diagnostic test, which is the MRDT, malaria rapid diagnostic test, which is the MRDT. Yes, they are used to detect the presence of malaria in an organism. That is their diagnostic procedure used to detect the presence of Plasmodium parasite in a host. Then let's move to the other examples of Sporozoa, which is the Cryptoporidium, which is the Cryptoporidium. The Cryptoporidium is a protozoan. It's a protozoan. Yeah, it's a protozoan parasite. Very true. The protozoan. It's a protozoan parasite. It's a protozoan parasite that infects the intestine. It primarily affects the intestine. The Cryptoporidium it primarily affects the intestine. And it is mostly transmitted through contaminated water. That is the mode of transmission. Is through contaminated water. So when a person drink or ingest water that contain the parasite, infection occur. That is, the method of transmission is through contaminated water. So when a person drink or ingest water that contain the parasite, right, infection is likely to occur. And the effect of Cryptoporidium, that is of the parasite, it causes severe diarrhea. Yes, it causes severe diarrhea in the host. And it is very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous, especially with weak immune patients. It's very dangerous, especially with weak immune patient. That is, patient with compromised immune system, immunocompromised patient, right? Immunocompromised individual. That the patient with weak immune system, like those with HIV/AIDS, cancer. Okay, all right. And the method in which this infection can be detected in a host is through stool examination. Yeah, through stool examination. Then, in essence, the Cryptoporidium is an intestinal protozoan. It is transmitted through contaminated water, causing severe diarrhea, especially in individuals with weak immune system. And it is being diagnosed. That is, it's being diagnosed by stool examination. And also, one key important thing about the Cryptoporidium is that they infect the intestine. Yes, they infect the intestine, and their mode of transmission is through contaminated water. Yes, it's through contaminated water. And one thing I would like you to take note of about the Cryptoporidium is that they are dangerous. Yes, they are very, very dangerous. They are very, very dangerous in patients with HIV. They are very, very dangerous in patients with HIV/AIDS. They are the patient with weak immune system. Then let's move to the next slide, which is the Isoporosal species. The Isoporosal species is a protozoan parasite that infect the intestine. Yes, it is a protozoan. It infects the intestine, and its method of transmission is through contaminated food or water. Yes, it's through contaminated food or water. So when a person drink or ingest food that contain the effective form of the parasite, they become infected. And the isoporals, the isoporals belly, it normally causes what we call traveler diarrhea. Yes, let me write it out. It causes what we call the traveler diarrhea. The isoporal belly, or the species, it causes what we call the traveler. It causes what we call the traveler disease. And the traveler disease, it simply means that when from the word traveler, it simply means diarrhea that is acquired while visiting another country, usually due to contaminated food or water. From the word traveler diarrhea, that is the diarrhea acquired as a result of visiting another country, usually due to contaminated food or water. Although it affects anyone, although this isoporosal species, it can affect anyone, but it is more serious in people with weak immune system. Yes, it's more serious with people with weak immune system, because the body defense, the body soldiers are being destroyed. Yeah, are being destroyed. So therefore, it ought to be severe. Yes, it ought to be severe, because the soldiers of the body have been destroyed by the virus, right? That is why it is very dangerous in patients with weak immune system. And one important thing about the isoporal belly is that is, in summary, it is an intestinal protozoa. Are we together? Yes. Let me just summarize this for you guys. It is an intestinal protozoa that is transmitted through contaminated food or water, and it causes the traveler diarrhea, and it's very fatal, especially in immune compromised individual. Then the next thing we have in our slide is the Toxoplasma gondii. The Toxoplasma gondii is also a protozoan parasite that causes the disease, the toxoplasmosis, right? It's responsible for causing toxoplasmosis, which is a protozoan, a parasitic infection that is being caused by Toxoplasma gondii. Toxoplasmosis is a parasitic infection that is being caused by Toxoplasma gondii. And one important thing to note about the Toxoplasma gondii is that the main reservoir, its main reservoir or definite host, its main definite host is the cat. Please take note of it. Its main definite host is the cat. This means that since I say definite host, it means that it completes its parasitic life cycle in cat, right? Yeah, it completes its life cycle. It completes its life. It completes its life cycle in cats, and mostly it is being transmitted in different ways. Yeah, it's being transmitted in different ways. It can be transmitted by eating undercooked meat that the parasite. It can be transmitted by eating undercooked meat that contain the parasite. It can also be transmitted by contact with feces, that is with fecal matter, right? With feces, which also contain the parasite, while handling cats litters. That is why handling cats litters at home. And also it can be transmitted through placenta from mother to child during pregnancy. Altogether, the toxoplasmosis, uh, which has the cat as its definite host, which has the cat as its definite host, which is being which is a disease that is being caused by the Toxoplasma gondii. It has it has a complex life cycle. Yes, it has a complex life cycle, that it required more than one host to complete its life cycle. And also the method of the transmission of the disease, it is being transmitted in different way: by eating on the cooked meat that contain the parasite, by contact with feces, while handling cat litters, and also it can also be transmitted through placenta from mother to child during pregnancy. The effects of the toxoplasmosis is that it's normal in people with healthy immune system. That is, it is mild in people with healthy immune system, but people with weak immune system, it can cause severe brain injury. Very, very true. It can cause severe brain injury. And in pregnancy, and in women in pregnancy, it can lead to affect the unborn child. Are we together? All right. Diagnosis. Let me wipe my board. It's occupied. It is commonly diagnosed using serology. Serology. Yeah, that is the method in which the infection can be detected, which means detecting the antibody in the blood, right? It's commonly diagnosed using serology, which means this serology is a process of detecting the antibodies in the blood. And in essence, the Toxoplasma gondii, let me just recap, is a parasitic protozoa, right, that causes the disease toxoplasmosis. And one of the key important thing I would like you guys to recall is that its main reservoir or definite host is the cat. And the method in which this parasitic infection is being transmitted, it can be transmitted either through undercooked meat that contain the parasite, by contact with fecal matter of cat, and also it can be passed from placenta from mother to unborn child. We're together to this point, and the method in which it can be detected is through serology. Yeah, it's through serology. Now let's move to the last slide, the next slide. What is happening? The next slide, which is the ciliophoral. Yeah, the ciliophoral, which are also called the ciliated. So now let's talk about the ciliated, that is the ciliophoral. The ciliophoral, that is the ciliated, right? Lastly, let's talk about the ciliophoral, the ciliated. The ciliophoral or the ciliated, they are protozoa that move. One of their features that they move by using the cilia. Yes, and this cilia is a small hair-like structure. Yes, it's a small like hair-like structure that helps in movement. it helps in the movement, it helps in movement. And also and also and also example of the ciliated, that is example of parasite that belongs to these subphylums. Example of this of parasite that belongs to this subphylum ciliated, that is Ciliophorel, is the Balatidium. Yeah, from the handouts from the slide there is the Balatidium. Balatidium coli. Yeah, Balatidium coli exists in two forms. I want to draw your attention to this. One important thing about Balatidium coli is that it exists in two forms: the trophozoite, the trophozoite, the trophozoid, the trophozoid, and the cyst. The trophozoid, which is the active stage of the Balatidium, while the cyst, which is the infective. The trophozoid form, which is the active and the feeding stage, of the parasite, and the cyst, which is the infective stage. It is important to note that another key feature about the Balatidium coli is that they are the largest protozoan parasite. They are the largest protozoan parasite that causes infection. The largest protozoan parasite that causes infection in women. That's another key thing I would like you guys to note about the Balatidium coli. They exist in two forms: the trophozoid, that is the active and feeding stage, and the cyst, which is the infective stage. And they form the largest protozoan parasite that causes infection in women, and they are located mostly in the large intestine. Yes, they are located in the large intestine. And they are mostly transmitted through injection of cyst, which is the infective stage, right? Which is hard and mostly found outside the body. Yes, outside the body. So women usually get infected with Balatidium coli by consuming contaminated food. By consuming contaminated food or water that contain the cyst, and the disease, that is the disease, the parasite, it causes dysentery in man. Yes, it causes dysentery. That's why we said that the Balatidium coli, it represents the largest protozoan parasite that causes infection in women. And another thing that I want to draw to our attention is that the method of transmission of this parasitic protozoa is through the injection of the cyst, that is by faking the cyst, often from pig. Yes, often from pig, which is the carrier, often from pig. And also diagnosis, that is how the infection is being detected. It is done by stool examination. So in essence, Balatidium coli is a ciliated parasitic protozoa, and the largest group of parasitic protozoa that cause infection in women, and they are normally found in the large intestine. And they are mostly transmitted through the injection of cyst, often from pig, and its effect is that it causes dysentery, and it is being diagnosed using stool examination. Alright, we've come to the end of this tutorial. Starting from the end of this tutorials, starting from the introduction, that is the definition of parasitology, what is a parasite, the feature of parasite, how parasite can be classified, down to host, the types of hosts. We spoke about vector, then stages of parasite, then we move to the mode of transmission, then we spoke about host-parasite relationship, then we talk about the general life cycle of parasite, then we'll talk about the classification of parasite. I would like you guys at the end of this video, you should like, share, and comment. See you guys in the next video.